So this is another idea for the 1970s, is doing something that's funky, basically. So again, go and research what you think, makes 1970s funk and stuff like that, and have a listen and try and pick out the key elements and see if you can make your own track. But if you're getting stuck, then if you come on the website, then there are some ideas here. So for instance, I did some research and I found these kind of drum things. I think they were on a quite a famous like drum magazine site. So they're drum notation, basically. So the low notes are the kick drums, and then the middle ones are the snare, and then the ones with the X's are the cymbals. And things like the little O above the X symbol means that it's open hi-hat and things like that. So I kind of wrote them out here so you can see them in the piano roll. So I thought we'd give this a try to start with and see what we come up with. So if we head over to Logic, I'm going to bring the tempo down to about 110 maybe. Let's start there. That's a good kind of funky sort of thing. And if we go to our drummer track, let's... actually, we're not going to use drummer tracks necessarily. We could just do it from scratch. So let's go new software instrument. And I'm going to go to drum kits. And we could have a look and see if we can find one that we could use for funk. Let's just use this for now. We might change this later on. Let's try Neo Soul. That might be quite funky. So I'm going to create a new empty region. So this is a drum. It's not a drummer track. It's just software instrument track. I've loaded the drums onto it. So far we've been using drummer tracks. But what we could do here is actually program our own drums. So I've extended this out for 4 bars. And then if you see here, it tells me what the different elements of the kit are. So got kick drum there. And if I just move this around so we can see it at the same time, let's actually just pop this out into a separate window, which will make it easier to see at the same time. And let's minimize that. So one of the things that we might want to use is velocity. So there's a little slider here that allows me to change velocity. And velocity is basically how hard you want to play that note. And it does affect volume, but it's really about how hard that note is being played. So we've got our kick drum here, and if we look at the example, we've got hi-hat foot close. So that's that one up there, I think. And then let's copy it, but this time you'll see that the velocity is lower. So let's make it lower, and you can see it changes color. So it goes to like lighter shades and stuff like that the lower we go. So let's go a bit lower. So play these harder because they're on the beat, sort of first beat. So let's zoom in so it's the same sort of size. That's what we want, so we can sort of see it's very similar. Like that. So let's put this, and then we have a snare hit, and then we have this. Now this is one of the most important aspects to understand really about sort of funk, is that you get these kind of syncopated hits. So these have been drawn like that. So this is on the beat, and then this is on the beat basically. But then we're going to get just before the next beat, which is actually here, right? So 1, 3. We're going to emphasize the beat just before on the off beat, basically. So this is syncopation, which is really, really common in funk. So if you go listen to funk, you'll find out that that's very, very common. So we're kind of syncopating. And if you syncopate a note, often it's quite good to accent that note, because we're accenting it with the open hi-hat and a kick drum that has got high velocity, because it's like you're doing it on purpose, you know. I'm purposely playing kind of off the beat. So if we go and complete the rest of this, and let's put that there, that there. Then we have this. Let's try and just loop the bar and see if it sounds good. Yeah, might even lower the tempo a bit. And you can feel that kind of, you know, it's just coming a little bit early. It sounds great. Yeah. So we've got our kind of funky drum idea in, and you could try writing your own, and we can mix it up and have fun with it and stuff like that, but we'll leave it there for now. So another thing to understand with coming up with kind of funk is how important the bass is in funk, right? So there's this brilliant video here from Bootsy Collins, who's like a really famous kind of bass kind of guitarist in funk. And basically, you can watch the whole video, but basically what he's talking about is that what he thinks makes a great bass funk line is to really hit the one in a bar hard with the root note of the chord, and then basically come up with some sort of interesting 8th or 16th note kind of syncopated little idea around that, but always hitting one really hard with the bass. So let's change this bass guitar sound to something maybe more appropriate. Let's maybe go finger style to start with, and we can always change that if it doesn't sound good. So I'm going to grab my drum thing here, and if I go to the end of it, if I use the circular tool, then I can just loop it out. Although I want to change it if I was doing a real track, but I'll do for now. So let's go in here, and obviously you could play it, but we could also sort of write it. So you might think, well, what kind of notes are going to sound good, right? So a lot of notes sound good, different scales for funk. I'd say the two most common that get used are the Mixolydian or Dorian. For like, if it's major, it's probably going to be a Mixolydian sound, and if it's minor, it's probably going to be a Dorian sound, and then modes. So here's kind of some information about the Mixolydian mode. So you can see it's like a scale of C major, only that the 7th note, the B, is flattened. It's B flat. So that note we're probably going to play a lot with, because that's the interesting note, because it's been changed from a major scale. So I've written it out here for guitarists in the key of C. But I think for now I'm going to work in the key of E, because I've got a guitar with me, and like E is nice and easy to work in because it's got some open strings for me. So basically it's going to be like the scale of E major, but the 7th note, which is normally a D sharp, is going to be lowered to a D, basically. And we'll talk about kind of chords as well. So this is a really kind of common chord sound, the dominant 9 sort of sound, basically. You know, play that funky music. You know, kind of has those kind of sounds to it. So we can use that really nicely with a Mixolydian, as long as we're on the same root note. So if we go back to our project here, so we're going to work in E Mixolydian, and you can look it up if you can't work it out. But what we want to do is use velocity to be like really strong on that one there. On beat 1, basically. This one I want to be really strong with. So I'm going to up the velocity, right? So it's like really hits hard on beat 1. And then we want to use some space. And this is where we could just play and just see what comes out, basically. Don't think about it too much sometimes. If you think about it too much, then, you know, you just end up writing something you've probably written before. What's this going to sound like at the start? That's kind of funky. Could we go on to like the offbeat and let's go up to, let's just put a loop on. Yeah, it's kind of funky already. I didn't even think it would sound that good. So we could only really hit these down here with a 5-string bass, and they weren't really being used yet in the 70s. So let's put it up there and see what it sounds like. And we're gonna, with these, I'm gonna lower the velocity of that, and then I want these to kind of walk, and then this will be like a really sort of short one, maybe. Yeah. Thing is, if I was playing this, then this one would sound, I think, a lot better, because I kind of pop it a little bit so it sort of twangs. Yeah, it's kind of funky. So you see the idea, basically. We're hitting hard on one, and then we kind of doing some kind of nice little offbeat sort of things. Because here's the beat, is on 1-2 here. So that's on the beat there. So by shifting this to be strong here, this is off the beat. On the beat is weak, and then off the beat again is strong. And then what I've kind of done with these is here's on the beat, and I'm kind of going, you know, we could shift it to be even more off the beat and kind of move them like there maybe, and see what that sort of sounds like. Yeah, I think they're coming in just a little too early. It sounds better with them kind of here, basically. But here's the really strong beat here, and we're kind of coming in on the offbeat again, but then here it's on the strong beat, and then that pops on kind of midway between on an 8th note. But you can just play and see what you can come up with, as long as you've got this sounding really strong on there, basically. And we could try, what I could try doing is, let's loop this twice, and then this time I'm just going to change the root note, but actually keep the little twiddle the same. Let's see what this sounds like. Yeah. Strong. Yeah, so it's kind of going between E and A, so like chord 1 and chord 4, but I just kept the little riffy bit actually the same. So once we've got that, we might want to think about adding like a guitar kind of thing. This is where it's going to be challenging with a bit of a delay in the system. Yeah? So really common notes to play with it to come up with a riff often in funk. It's like the root, obviously, the 4th, the 5th, then the flat 7, right? From that kind of mixed Lydian thing. Yeah, so let's just lay something down and see what happens. So I'll just come up with a little part. It's quite difficult to play. We'll see what the delay is like. So I think I can almost see the delay. And if you get this sometimes, this is quite a good example. So you can almost see the delay in that you see here there's like a tiny little gap. So I'm going to zoom in and see if I can just actually shift this to kind of correct the gap. See if we can do it. What happens if we move it that far back? Yeah, I think it's almost a little too far back actually. So we'll just shift it back a little bit. I think as well, it's just the challenge of trying to play on a system with delay. So yeah, it's only because I'm screen recording, I'm getting that. But then there you go. Anyway, so we've got kind of a little riff idea using the kind of scale, and what I might also do is stick in that dominant chord. And it's quite common to like move it around as well. So what Play That Funky Music does is it plays it, but then it kind of comes back down chromatically to it, or sometimes like slides up from a semitone underneath, like 1 fret under. Let's give that a try. Oh yeah, I forgot we changed chord. So let's just do it on the first one for now. So I'm gonna try, let's just see what it sounds like and move it back a bit easier. Yeah, you can hear it kind of is just delayed a little bit. And you can see it again, if I zoom in, you can see how much it's delayed there. So what I'm gonna do, the first time is going to cut off. So if I cut this, so let's just find the moment where it's at. So it's kind of here. So you can see this is the beat and this is where I kind of came in. So what I can do is select scissors from these menus up here. So the left one is left click. So if I select scissors, I'm going to chop it. And if I click and hold, there you go. Go back to pointer, I'm going to get rid of that. Bring this back, and hopefully it's about a bit more in time now. Yeah, so yeah, I chopped in the wrong place, so we can go back, just undo and fix that. Let's undo. Right. Let's chop it there. I think that's where we did it actually. I just want that one. Let's just take that one. So you can see again, it's quite extreme. So I am going to do scissors and chop. Oh, many times. Go back to this, get rid of that, bring this over. Hopefully this is a bit more in time now. Yeah, it's quite hard to do funk with a quite significant delay, but we could then copy this over here. Copy, there we go. And one thing to point out, what makes funk like really good sometimes is the rhythms and the syncopation. So we can kind of see things happening here where things are kind of stacking up. So you can see at this beginning part we get quite a lot going on at the same time. But then here, there's nothing in my audio kind of riff or chord, but this is where we get the really interesting kind of bass syncopated idea. And then there's the drum sort of syncopated idea. And again, there's nothing going on there. But when things go a bit more straight in these parts, then we have like the guitar come back in. So it's interesting. So it's like you're shifting where the interest is rhythmically around different parts. You do that, it's really, really nice for a listener. So this is like a really simple example of how to get going with a kind of funk tune. You could then like come up with lots of different parts and stuff like that over the top of it. But this will give you a pretty good sort of starting point really to get going with it. So we kind of looked at creating a drum part that uses syncopation, so accents somewhere like off the beat. The bass part emphasizes beat one really strongly using velocity. And then kind of come up with some syncopated kind of other parts and, you know, twiddly bits for it. And then with guitar, you can come up with like a little riff using the scale and use dominant 9 chords. They sound kind of really, really cool, basically. So there you go.